The lonely cry of the night was silent inside the broken alien outpost. Cold metal walls stood tall, covered in cracks, dust, and old wires that no longer carried power. Strange shadows stretched across the empty hallways. Outside, the stars burned quietly, but inside there was only silence, and the sound of a child crying. In one corner of the ruined base sat a young alien girl. Her skin was pale with faint lines that glowed weakly like a light about to die. Her big eyes reflected the little light that came from the broken ceiling. She hugged her knees, rocking back and forth, and tears slid down her cheeks. She whispered to herself in a voice that was almost broken, "I never had a birthday." Her words echoed in the empty space. The walls gave no answer, the stars gave no answer, and the silence pressed harder on her heart. No one came. No one cared. The alien girl closed her eyes, but memories kept her awake. She remembered the faces of her people, tall and cold, who always looked past her. They never laughed with her. They never smiled. They only gave orders. They only wanted strength, not joy. She remembered once asking, "Why do humans celebrate birthdays?" She had seen it in an old transmission from Earth, a picture of a family gathered around a cake. Her people had mocked her for even asking. They told her such things were weakness. Happiness, they said, was for fools, but she remembered the children on the screen. They were smiling. They were laughing. And they were not weak at all. Now she sat alone, abandoned. Her people had left her here months ago, maybe longer. Time had no meaning when every day was the same. Silence, hunger, and fear. Her voice shook again. "I never had a birthday." The air was thin and cold, and the girl shivered. She pulled an old cloth around her shoulders, but it was not enough. Her stomach growled. She had not eaten for days. Far away, something creaked. A door groaned against the wind. The sound echoed through the empty corridors, and she froze. Her heart raced. Was it her people returning? Was it the machines that hunted the ruins? Or was it something worse? She pressed her back against the wall, holding her breath. The sound grew louder. Footsteps, slow and careful. The girl's tears stopped. Fear replaced sadness. Her people would not save her. If they came back, it was only to punish. If it was something else, maybe it was even more dangerous. She wanted to run, but her legs were too weak. All she could do was wait. The footsteps drew closer. A faint beam of light cut through the darkness. It moved across the wall, across the floor, and finally stopped near her corner. The girl gasped. A voice followed. It was low, calm, and unfamiliar.
"Hello?"
Her eyes widened. It was not the voice of her people. It was strange, soft, almost kind. "Is someone there?" The voice asked again. The girl pressed herself deeper into the shadows. She was afraid to answer. Afraid of a trap. Afraid of hope, the footsteps came closer. The beam of light searched the corner, and finally the stranger saw her. It was a human. He wore a broken suit of armor, scratched and dirty from travel. His face was tired, but his eyes looked alive, warm and steady. The girl trembled. She had never seen a human this close before. She had only seen them in transmissions. The man crouched down, lowering the light so it would not blind her. His voice stayed gentle. "It's okay," he said. "I won't hurt you." She shook her head quickly, still pressed against the wall. The human slowly sat down on the floor, leaving space between them. He placed the light beside him so the shadows softened. "You're alone," he said, more as a fact than a question. The girl's lips parted, but no words came. The human gave a small smile. "I thought I heard someone crying." "That was you, wasn't it?" Her throat tightened. For a moment she thought of lying, but her voice betrayed her. Yes, the word came out weak and broken. The human's eyes softened. "I see." Silence filled the room again, but it was not the same silence as before. It was no longer empty. It was heavy with curiosity, with questions, with something the girl had never felt before. Concern. The man finally spoke again. "What's your name?" She hesitated. She did not know if she could trust him, but for some reason she wanted to. "Lyra," she whispered. The man nodded. "Lyra, that's a good name." Her chest tightened. No one had ever said her name like that before, with warmth, with respect. The human leaned back against the wall. He pulled out a small pack from his belt. "You look hungry," he said. He opened it and took out a piece of food. He placed it gently on the floor between them, not pushing it closer, just leaving it there. Lyra's eyes locked on it. Her stomach twisted. But she did not move. The human's voice was calm. It's yours if you want it. For a long time, she said nothing. Her hands trembled. Finally, slowly, she reached out and pulled the food toward her. She bit into it. It was dry and strange, but it was food. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they were not only from sadness. The human watched quietly, giving her space. When she finished, he asked softly, "Why were you crying?" Lyra lowered her head. Her voice cracked as she whispered the same words she had whispered to the empty walls. "I never had a birthday." The human blinked. His eyes widened just a little, as if he understood the weight of what she said. And in that moment something changed. The ruined outpost was still broken, still cold. But for the first time in her life, the alien girl was not alone. A life without joy. The night grew longer inside the abandoned outpost. Lyra sat close to the human stranger, though not too close. Her heart was still heavy with fear. She kept her eyes on him, waiting for some sign that he would hurt her, betray her, or leave her behind like all the others had. But the man did not move toward her. He leaned back against the wall, calm as if the ruined place was his own home. His eyes followed the broken ceiling where faint starlight slipped through the cracks. Lyra finally whispered, her voice sharp with doubt. "Why are you here?" The man turned his head, meeting her gaze. "I could ask you the same," he said softly. Her lips trembled. "I was left." The word cut into her own chest. It was not easy to admit. She looked away, ashamed. The man did not laugh at her. He did not call her weak. He only nodded slowly as if he understood. Lyra's memories pressed harder against her mind. They were like heavy chains, always pulling her down. She closed her eyes and saw the cold faces of her people again, tall, proud, merciless. They trained their young for war, not for life. She remembered standing in the middle of a hall watching other children being tested. The strong ones were praised. The weak were ignored. When her turn came, she tried to lift the weapon, but her arm shook. She tried to strike, but her aim was clumsy. The elders frowned. They turned away. No one spoke to her again that day. From then on, she was invisible. Her people believed joy was weakness. To laugh, to sing, to smile, those were useless things. Things that slowed warriors down. And yet Lyra had always wanted them. She wanted what she had once glimpsed on the glowing screen stolen from Earth. Children with cakes, families with candles, people who hugged and clapped and cheered. Her voice cracked as she whispered now, "I watched humans. I saw how they live. They smile. They celebrate. They remember each other. My people never did, not once." The human listened carefully. His eyes did not drift. He stayed with her words as though each one mattered. Lyra hugged her knees tighter. "I asked once, 'What is a birthday?' They laughed at me. They said it was nothing, a waste of time, a human weakness, but..." Her breath caught and tears gathered again. "I always wanted one, just once. For someone to say my name. For someone to give me a reason to be happy." The silence after her words was heavy. She wanted to hide again. She wished she had not spoken. She feared he would think she was foolish. But then the man's voice came, steady and quiet. "That's not foolish," he said. "That's human." Lyra blinked, confused. "But I'm not human." The man tilted his head, studying her glowing lines, her alien skin, her strange eyes. "Maybe not on the outside," he said, "but on the inside, you feel. You hope. You dream. That makes you human too." Her chest ached. No one had ever said such things to her. She wanted to believe him, but doubt still pulled at her. "My people abandoned me. They saw me as nothing. If I was truly human inside, why would no one ever want me?" The man sighed. He looked down at his hands for a long moment, as if remembering his own past. "Humans abandon too," he said finally. "Sometimes they leave behind what they don't understand. Sometimes they hurt the ones who need them most. But that doesn't mean you are nothing. It means they were blind." Lyra's heart beat faster. She stared at him. "Blind?" "Yes," he said firmly. "They couldn't see you for who you are." Her throat tightened. Her people had always told her she was weak, useless, a failure. But this human stranger said the opposite. Could it be true? Could she matter? A soft sound broke the moment. A groan of metal from outside the outpost. Lyra stiffened, fear flooding back. Her eyes darted to the broken doorway. "They are coming," she whispered. The man's hand moved to the side of his armor, gripping a weapon. His face hardened, but his voice stayed calm. "Who?" "My people," Lyra breathed. or their machines. They search. They do not like witnesses. If they find me with you— She stopped, unable to finish. The man's jaw tightened. Then we don't let them find us. Her breath came quick and shallow. She remembered what happened to others who disobeyed her people. Punishment was cruel, final. She shook her head. You don't understand. If they find us, they will kill you, and they will take me back. The man's eyes locked with hers. Then we'll make sure they don't find us, he said again, this time with steel in his voice. For the first time, Lyra saw something different in him. He was not just kind. He was strong. Not strong in the way her people wanted, cold and merciless. He was strong in a way she had never known, protective, determined, human. She shivered, torn between fear and hope. The sound outside grew louder. Footsteps, heavy and metallic, echoed in the distance. The man leaned closer, whispering, Stay quiet. Stay behind me. Lyra's heart pounded. She nodded, her small frame trembling. As the footsteps drew nearer, her mind whispered the words again. I never had a birthday. But now, another thought followed, faint but stubborn. Maybe. One day. The stranger arrives. The sound outside grew sharper. Heavy metal feet hit the broken ground, sending faint tremors through the floor. The ruined outpost groaned as if it remembered the weight of war. Lyra pressed herself against the wall, every muscle shaking. She had heard those footsteps before. Machines of her people. Hunters. They searched the ruins for survivors, not to save, but to erase. Her lips parted, whispering only one word. Run. But the human did not run. He crouched low, his weapon ready. His armor was worn, scratched, and barely held together. Yet he stood like a shield. They will find us, Lyra hissed, her voice breaking. Not if we stay quiet, the man answered calmly. His tone surprised her. He was not panicked, not trembling. His voice was steady like a rock in the storm. The machines outside stopped. Silence pressed heavy. Then a low hum filled the air, the sound of scanners. Bright red beams flashed through the cracks in the walls, searching for life. Lyra held her breath, clutching her knees tight. Her glowing lines pulsed faintly against her skin. She tried to dim them with all her strength, but fear made the light flicker uncontrollably. The human noticed. His eyes narrowed. He pulled a broken piece of metal from the floor and leaned it against her, blocking the glow from the doorway. Better, he whispered. Her chest ached. No one had ever shielded her before. Not once. The machines moved on, their heavy feet fading into the distance. The red beams disappeared. The hum faded. Lyra finally breathed again, shaking so hard she could barely sit upright. They will come back, she whispered. Then we'll move before they do, the man replied. He pushed himself up, scanning the dark hall. His movements were sharp but quiet, each step careful. Then he turned back to her. Can you walk? Lyra hesitated. Her legs felt weak, but she nodded. He extended his hand. Come with me. Her eyes locked on his hand. Strong, human, calloused. No one had ever reached for her like this. No one had ever asked her to come along. She wanted to take it, but fear clung tight. What if he abandoned her later? What if he turned her over to her people? Her voice was barely a whisper. Why help me? The man paused. For a moment he seemed to weigh his answer. Then he said simply, because you're alone. And no one should be. The words struck deep. She stared at him, searching for lies. His face stayed steady, his eyes honest. Slowly, her trembling hand rose. She placed it in his. Warmth. Real, human warmth. The man pulled her gently to her feet. She stumbled, but he steadied her. Together they moved through the shadows, deeper into the ruins. As they walked, Lyra whispered again, What is your name? He glanced at her. Daniel, Daniel. She repeated it in her mind, the way he had said her name before, with respect, with weight. She held it close like a fragile flame. The corridors twisted with rubble and broken doors. Every sound echoed. Lyra's glowing lines flickered softly, but Daniel always positioned himself between her and the open cracks, shielding her from sight. Finally, they reached a room half buried under collapsed walls. The ceiling was low, but it was hidden, safe. Daniel checked the corners, then nodded. We'll stay here for now. Lyra sat on the floor, her body aching with exhaustion. Daniel set his weapon down and sat across from her. For a long while, there was only silence. The distant hum of machines had faded. The stars above were quiet. Lyra's voice broke the stillness. "You should have left me." Daniel shook his head. "No. You don't understand," she said, her words tumbling fast. "My people will kill you. They do not forgive humans. They do not forgive weakness. I am both." Daniel's eyes hardened. "You are not weak," her breath caught. "You don't know me." "I know enough," he said. His voice was firm like stone. "Weakness is giving up. Weakness is letting them decide who you are. But you're still here. You survived when they left you. That's not weakness, Lyra, that's strength." Her chest burned. No one had ever called her strong. Her people only saw failure. But here was a stranger, a human who saw something else. Her lips trembled. "Why do you care?" Daniel looked at her for a long moment. His eyes softened again. "Because I once thought I was nothing too." Lyra froze. His words felt sharp and heavy, as if they carried his own scars. She wanted to ask, but she saw in his eyes that he was not ready to tell. Instead, he reached into his pack. He pulled out a small object, a square wrapped in thin paper. He placed it on the ground between them, just like he had done with the food. She looked at it, puzzled. "What is that?" Daniel smiled faintly. "Something from home, sweet. We call it chocolate." Her eyes widened. She reached slowly, unwrapped it, and sniffed. A strange smell, rich, warm. She bit into it. The taste burst across her tongue, unlike anything she had ever known. Her glowing lines flickered brighter for a second. A sound slipped from her lips, a soft, almost laugh. Daniel's smile grew. "Better than rations, right?" She nodded quickly, wiping her mouth. "It's good." For a moment, the fear lifted. For a moment, there was only the strange taste of chocolate, the warmth of Daniel's presence, and the faint hope that maybe, just maybe, she was not as alone as she thought. But then, from far away, the machines roared again. The ground shook. Lyra's smile faded. She clutched her knees. Daniel reached for his weapon, his voice calm but sharp. "They're not done searching." The moment of peace was over. The hunt had begun again. Broken trust. The ruins trembled again as the machines outside swept the broken outpost. Their mechanical growls echoed through the night, heavy and merciless. Dust fell from the cracked ceiling. Lyra sat in the corner of the small room, her arms wrapped tight around her knees. She stared at Daniel, who was checking his weapon. His calmness unsettled her. Humans were supposed to be noisy, reckless, weak. Yet this one sat steady, his hands sure, his eyes sharp. She wanted to believe he could protect her. She wanted to believe he would not leave. But a darker voice in her mind whispered, "He will betray you." All beings betray. Her people had taught her that. She had lived it. "Why do you stay?" she asked suddenly, her voice sharp. Daniel looked up. "Because you need me." Her chest tightened. "That is not a reason. Humans are selfish. My people said so. You will leave when it is hard." Daniel studied her face. His eyes softened, but his voice stayed calm. "I don't plan to leave, Lyra." She shook her head quickly. "Do not lie. Everyone leaves. My people left. You will too." Her glowing lines flared with anger and pain. She stood, her small frame trembling, her voice rising. "You don't understand. You think because you gave me food I will trust you? No, trust is a trick. It breaks. It always breaks." The words fell heavy in the room. Daniel stayed silent for a long moment. Then he set his weapon down and leaned back, unthreatening. "I won't force you to trust me," he said finally. "You don't have to, but I will stay anyway." Lyra's breath caught. The answer confused her. Why would anyone stay without gaining something? Her lips trembled. "What if they find us?" "What if you die because of me?" Daniel shrugged slightly, though his eyes stayed serious. "Then I'll die knowing I tried. That's better than walking away and pretending I never heard you cry." Lyra froze. Her heart twisted. The image hit her, herself crying in the dark, unheard. That was her life until now. That was her every day. Her glowing lines flickered dimly, uncertain. Daniel reached into his pack again. This time he pulled out a small, bent piece of paper. The edges were torn, but the color still shone, bright and strange. He slid it across the floor to her. She picked it up carefully. The picture showed a group of humans, children and adults together, gathered around a glowing cake. Bright flames lit their faces. Their smiles seemed alive, almost spilling out of the paper. Her breath hitched. This is a birthday?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, that was mine. Long ago." She traced the picture with trembling fingers. "Why candles? Why fire? It's tradition, he said. 1 candle for each year you live. You blow them out, make a wish. People cheer for you. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. Cheer for you? Daniel gave a small smile. Yes, for 1 day the world says your life matters. That you matter. The tears spilled down her cheeks. Her voice cracked as she whispered, No one has ever said I matter. Daniel's smile faded, replaced by something harder, stronger. Then they were wrong. Her breath broke. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe every word, but the weight of her past pressed down. What if it is a lie? She asked, voice shaking. What if birthdays are only stories humans tell? What if joy is not real? Daniel leaned forward. His eyes locked with hers, steady and fierce. It's real. I've lived it. And you will too. Her body trembled. She wanted to trust him. She wanted to reach for the promise in his words. But fear held her back. Outside, the machines roared again, dragging her back to the present. She jumped, clutching the paper tightly. Daniel stood, picking up his weapon. We need to move deeper before they circle back. Lyra rose slowly, still clutching the picture. Her eyes darted to him, then to the shadows. She wanted to follow, but her fear whispered louder. What if he is only using me? What if he leaves when it matters most? Her hands shook. She felt the old chains of doubt tighten around her heart. Daniel extended his hand again. His voice was calm, steady. Come on, she stared at his hand. She remembered the warmth when she touched it before. She remembered the chocolate, the picture, the word birthday. But still, her chest burned with distrust. Slowly, she stepped back instead of forward. Daniel's eyes narrowed, but he did not push. He lowered his hand. If you want to stay, I won't force you. But if you walk away now, the machines will find you. And then, he stopped. He didn't need to finish. Lyra clutched the picture to her chest. She felt torn in two, the fear of betrayal pulling her one way, the fragile hope of belonging pulling the other. Her glowing lines flickered wildly, showing her turmoil. Daniel turned toward the door. I'll wait outside. Decide quickly. The sound of machines echoed closer, the ground shaking. Lyra's heart pounded. She looked at the picture again, the glowing cake, the smiling faces, the fire that looked like hope. Her whisper filled the room, soft but aching. I never had a birthday. The machines roared. Dust rained from the ceiling. Her choice would come in seconds. The promise. The ruins trembled again. Dust rained from the ceiling. The machines outside were closer now, their heavy steps shaking the floor like thunder. Lyra stood frozen in the small room, clutching the torn picture of the birthday cake against her chest. Her glowing lines flickered wildly, torn between fear and hope. At the doorway, Daniel waited. His weapon was ready, but his face stayed calm. He looked back at her. His voice was steady, though softer than the growl of the machines. Lyra, come with me. We don't have much time. Her throat tightened. Her voice cracked. Why do you care? Why risk yourself for me? Daniel didn't look away. Because I made you a promise, Lyra blinked. Promise? Yes, he said firmly. You will have a birthday. You will know what it means to be celebrated, even if the whole galaxy tells you that you don't matter. I won't stop until you know you do. The words struck her harder than any blow. A promise. She had never been given one before. Her people did not promise. They commanded. They judged. They abandoned. Her hands shook. What if you fail? Daniel's jaw tightened. His eyes burned with something stronger than hope, determination. Then I will fail trying. But I will never abandon you. The machines roared again. A metal arm slammed against a distant wall, breaking stone. Sparks flew in the dark. Fear pushed her backward, but Daniel's voice pulled her forward. Lyra, he said, softer now, almost pleading. Your people told you birthdays were weakness. They lied. A birthday is proof you survived another year. It is proof you matter. And you do. Her chest ached. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe more than anything. Slowly, her trembling legs moved. She crossed the space between them and placed her small hand in his. Warmth spread through her again. For the first time, she didn't pull away. Daniel squeezed her hand lightly. His lips curved in the faintest smile. Good. Now let's move. Together, they slipped into the dark corridor. The outpost was falling apart. Collapsed ceilings, shattered walls, wires like dead veins hanging from above. The red glow of scanners swept across the hallways, searching, hunting. Daniel kept low, guiding her carefully. He always stepped first, shielding her from the beams. When they paused in the shadows, his arm pressed against hers, steady and firm. Lyra's mind raced. Every sound made her heart pound. Every flash of red made her flinch. But through the storm of fear, his words echoed inside her. I promise. You will have a birthday. The thought felt impossible. And yet, for the first time in her life, impossible did not mean hopeless. They slipped into another room deeper underground. The machines passed above, their heavy feet shaking dust from the ceiling. Daniel pressed a finger to his lips, signaling silence. Lyra nodded, holding her breath. Minutes crawled by. The machines finally moved farther away, their roars fading into the night. Daniel lowered his weapon slowly. He exhaled, tension easing from his shoulders. Lyra sagged against the wall, exhausted. Her voice was weak, but it carried weight. Why do you fight for me? You don't even know me. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. His voice was quiet, almost heavy. Because once I needed someone to fight for me. And no one did. Her eyes widened. She wanted to ask more, but the pain in his face stopped her. Whatever his past was, it was a wound still open, so instead she whispered, And now? You fight for me? He nodded. Yes, you deserve more than being abandoned. You deserve to live. You deserve to be seen. Her eyes filled again, tears sliding down her pale cheeks. No one ever said that to me. Then let this be the first time, Daniel said. Silence stretched between them. It was not empty silence, not the silence of loneliness. It was full, heavy with meaning. Lyra lowered her gaze, holding the picture tighter. Her voice was soft but certain. If you promise, I will try to believe. Daniel leaned closer, his voice steady as stone. I promise. The words hung in the air like a shield, like a vow unbreakable. Then a distant noise shattered the moment. The machines had stopped moving. The air was still, too still. Daniel frowned, listening carefully. They're regrouping. Lyra's stomach twisted. They know we're here. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Maybe, but we'll stay ahead of them. He stood and offered his hand again. This time she didn't hesitate. She rose with him, her legs steadier than before. Together they stepped into the corridor once more. The ruins groaned as if alive. Shadows stretched long and deep. Lyra whispered, You cannot fight them all. Daniel's lips curved in a grim smile. I don't need to fight them all. I only need to protect you long enough to keep my promise. Her heart pounded. The fear was still there, but so was something else, something brighter. For the first time in her life, she was not running alone. For the first time, she dared to hope. As they moved deeper into the ruins, her whisper floated through the dark. Maybe one day, I will have a birthday. Daniel's voice came steady beside her. Not maybe. You will. The machines roared again, closer than before. The hunt was not over. But Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, not from fear alone, but from the fragile, burning light of belief. The birthday cake. The ruins had grown quiet again. The machines moved farther into the night, their roars fading until only the creaks of the broken outpost remained. Daniel and Lyra sat in the hidden room, breathing softly in the dark. For the first time since they met, there was space for silence that did not feel like fear. Daniel opened his pack slowly, careful not to make noise. He pulled out a few small items, ration bars, a metal tin, and a tiny glowing spark lighter. His hands moved with focus as if he had planned this moment long before. Lyra tilted her head, confused. What are you doing? Daniel gave a faint smile. Keeping my promise. Her brows knit together. Promise? You said you never had a birthday, he reminded her. That changes tonight, her eyes widened. Her glowing lines pulsed faintly, a flicker of hope and disbelief. Here, now. In this place? Yes, he said. Here, now, in this place. She shook her head. But there is no cake. No candles, nothing. Daniel tapped the metal tin. Who says we need a perfect cake? We'll make one with what we have. He broke a ration bar into pieces, shaping them into a rough circle on a small metal plate. The texture was dry and dull, nothing like the cakes she had seen in transmissions. Yet the way he worked, carefully arranging each piece, made it feel important. Sacred. Then he struck the spark lighter. A tiny flame bloomed. He lit a small stick of wax from his pack and placed it at the center of the ration cake. The flame flickered, warm and alive, painting light across the dark walls. Lyra gasped softly. Her eyes reflected the glow. She had seen fire before, but never like this, not as a symbol, not as a gift. Daniel pushed the plate toward her. "There, your first birthday cake." Her lips trembled. "This is for me?" Daniel nodded. "For you. Because you matter." Her chest tightened. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they felt different. Softer. Warmer. He leaned forward slightly. "Now you make a wish. Close your eyes, think of what you want most, and then blow out the flame." Lyra stared at him. The idea seemed strange, almost impossible. "Wishes are not real." Daniel's voice was calm but firm. "Sometimes they are. Sometimes the wish is not magic, it's hope. And hope is real." Her glowing lines pulsed brighter. She looked at the flame again, small but alive. Slowly she closed her eyes. Her mind filled with memories. Loneliness, abandonment, silence. But beneath all of it, a new thought grew. A thought planted by this human, "I want to belong." Her eyes opened. She leaned forward, lips close to the flame. And with a trembling breath, she blew. The flame flickered once, twice, then vanished into smoke. The room fell into soft darkness again, but something inside her felt lit. Daniel clapped his hands once, softly but full of warmth. "Happy birthday, Lyra." The word struck her harder than any weapon ever could. Her lips parted. A broken laugh escaped her, weak but real. "Birthday?" she whispered. "I have a birthday." Her tears fell freely now, not from sorrow, but from the strange, aching joy she had never known. Daniel smiled faintly, watching her. "Yes, and it won't be the last." For a moment, the ruined world outside disappeared. There were no machines, no hunters, no fear. Only a girl who had never been seen, and a human who decided she mattered. Lyra picked up a piece of the ration cake and bit into it. It was dry, rough, almost bitter, but to her it was sweeter than anything she had ever tasted. She laughed again, softly, surprised by her own sound. "It tastes good," Daniel chuckled. "First time anyone has said that about a ration bar." She smiled, glowing lines shining brighter than before. For the first time, her smile was not a secret dream. It was real. But then, the ground shook. The warmth vanished in an instant. The machines had returned. Their roars echoed closer, sharper. The hunters had circled back. Lyra's joy crumbled into fear. She clutched the plate to her chest as if holding on to the birthday itself. "They are here," she whispered. Daniel's smile faded. He grabbed his weapon, eyes narrowing. "Then we move. Stay behind me." She rose quickly, still trembling. The faint glow of her lines pulsed stronger, betraying her location, Daniel noticed. He pulled a broken piece of cloth from his armor and wrapped it gently around her shoulders, hiding the glow. "Better, now stay close," her heart pounded. Just moments ago she had felt safe, celebrated, human. Now the hunt had returned, but something inside her had changed. She was still afraid. But she was no longer only afraid, she had tasted belonging. She had blown out a candle. She had heard the words "Happy Birthday." Even if death came now, she was no longer the same abandoned girl she had been. Daniel glanced back at her, his voice low but certain. "No matter what happens next, remember this, you had a birthday. No one can take that from you." Her glowing eyes filled with tears again. But this time there was fire in them, she whispered back. Steady and quiet. "I will remember." The machines roared again, closer than ever. Red light swept across the hall. Daniel raised his weapon. "Then let's make sure you live to have the next one." The girl who had never mattered stood behind the human who promised she did. And together, they faced the storm. Human until the end. The ruins shook as the machines closed in. Their red light swept across the cracked walls, sharp and searching. The air filled with the growl of engines, the hiss of scanners, the heavy rhythm of metal feet. Daniel stood in the doorway of the broken hall, weapon raised, his armor scratched and dim. Behind him, Lyra clutched the cloth around her shoulders, hiding the glow of her skin. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought the machines would hear it. "They are too many," she whispered. Daniel didn't turn. His voice was calm, steady. "Then we don't let them through." Her breath caught. "You cannot fight them all." "Maybe not," he admitted. "But I can make them stop long enough for you to choose who you are." Lyra froze at his words. Choose. No one had ever given her a choice. Her people had told her what to be, strong, merciless, silent. When she failed, they left her behind. Now a human was telling her she had power, that she could decide. The machines moved closer. Their eyes glowed red in the dark. One stepped into view. A towering hunter, its limbs sharp as blades, its voice a metallic growl. Unauthorized human detected. Alien subject identified. Return the defect. Lyra's body shook. Defect. That was what they had always called her. Daniel stepped forward, placing himself fully between her and the machine. She's not a defect. She's alive. And she matters. The machine scanner's word. Alien subject is weak. Alien subject has no value. Daniel's grip on his weapon tightened. His voice rose, stronger now. She has more value than all of you combined. Because she can feel. She can dream. She can hope. That's worth more than any machine. More than any cold order your kind ever gave. The words echoed through the broken outpost. Lyra's eyes widened. No one had ever defended her like that. The machine raised its weapon. Surrender the subject or be destroyed. Daniel aimed, his jaw set. You'll have to go through me. The room exploded in light and sound. Metal fire burst from the machines. Daniel returned fire, sparks flashing off steel. The ground shook with every strike. Lyra crouched low, fear clawing at her chest. Her eyes darted to Daniel, his stance unyielding, his figure steady in the storm. But he was only one human. His armor cracked, his weapon hissed with strain. He could not last forever. Her heart screamed, if he falls, I lose everything. If I do nothing, I will be taken again. She clutched the cloth tighter, then looked at the torn picture still tucked in her hand. The birthday cake, the glowing faces, the smile she had only just begun to believe could be hers. Her tears burned. For the first time, they were not from weakness. They were from fire. She stood. Stop, she shouted, her voice breaking through the clash. The machines paused, their red eyes turning to her. Daniel looked back, shock in his face. Lyra stepped forward, throwing the cloth aside. Her glowing lines flared bright, no longer hidden. You called me a defect, she said, her voice shaking but rising with every word. You called me nothing. But I am not nothing. The machines scanned her, their lenses whirring. I have a name, she cried. I am Lyra, and I am not yours anymore. Her glow surged brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. The machines faltered, confused by the intensity. Daniel's eyes filled with something fierce. Pride. The lead machine growled. Alien subject rejects command. Alien subject compromised. Yes, Lyra spat. I reject you. She lifted the broken plate still in her hand, the remains of the ration cake, the symbol of the promise Daniel gave her. She held it high, glowing brighter than the machine's scanners. This is my proof, she shouted. I had a birthday. I belong to myself, the machines hissed, systems stuttering. They had no command for this. No code for defiance fueled by joy. Daniel seized the moment. He fired again, striking the lead machine square in its chest. Sparks erupted. The machine fell with a metallic scream. The others staggered, their formation broken. Now, Lyra, Daniel shouted. Together they ran, through collapsing corridors, through shadows lit by red beams. The machines roared behind them, but their rhythm faltered. They had lost control. At last, Daniel kicked open a shattered door. Starlight poured in, cold and endless. They stumbled out into the night, leaving the ruins behind. Lyra fell to her knees, gasping. Her glow dimmed to a soft pulse. Daniel knelt beside her, his hand on her shoulder. You did it, he said, his voice low but steady. You chose. Her chest heaved. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but her lips trembled into a smile. I am not nothing, Daniel nodded. No, you're human where it counts. Her eyes widened. Human? He smiled faintly. Human is not about skin or blood. It's about standing, even when you're afraid. It's about caring, even when it's dangerous. You did both. That makes you human. Her glow brightened softly. She whispered almost to herself, human, until the end. Daniel looked up at the stars, then back at her. Not the end, Lyra, the beginning. She clutched the torn picture in her hands. The cake, the candles, the smiles. For the first time in her life, she believed one day she would see it for real. Not maybe. Not if. One day, the machine's roars faded behind them, broken and confused. The night stretched wide and open, and though danger still lurked in the galaxy, Lyra was no longer alone. She had a name. She had a promise, and now she had hope.